Hi everyone! Today I am making a swap card and I thought I would go ahead and make a few with you. I'm using a newer stamp set called Sea of Textures and I think it's really fun. I love the octopus and I think that would be really fun for anybody who loves nautical things. So it'd be nice for birthdays, scrapbook pages for sure. I live near Shedd Aquarium in Chicago and I think that this would make a good scrapbook page elements here, but there's so many things on here that would be good for backgrounds. This reminds me of a painting techniques where you use bubble wrap to make a fun background. That's kind of what this reminds me of. This little texture here, this little netting would be fun as a background. So there's a lot of things going on here and I'm just going to pick a few of them for my card, but I want to point out the dies as well before we get started because they're really fun. Stampin' Up! Lately has been doing some great things with dies. They have dies, of course, that cut out the images. So you've got a die for the octopus, which is great, and you've got a die for this coral, and that's great too. But in addition, you've got some really fun elements here, like a large net, and I'm going to use that as an element on my card. A really fun piece. And then there are extra little coral pieces here and some seagrass, and we're going to use those on the card. So that's a fun little element. Here's some of the coral. And I think that's a really cute little addition. So this one cuts out the stamped image, so it's the bigger outline, whereas this is just a really fine detailed piece without the stamp. And then 2 sand dollars, which are great. And then this little fun guy here cuts out this little school of fish. So maybe you use this on your card front with the different color paper behind, and you can have some fish in the background. I think that's a really fun little element, or you can even use the teeny tiny little fish individually as well. So I think this is a really fun die collection. And I wanted to show you that before we started because it's just really, really cute. Love these little sand dollars, and I really wanted to put them on the card, and then I thought I had too much going on there. So I'm going to use those sand dollars on something else because those are just beautiful. Okay. So the Sea of Textures is new, and if you buy the Sea of Textures with the Under the Sea dies, you get a savings of 10%. And I think that's a great deal. So here's the card. And the technique we're going to work on is the smooshing background. I think it's fun. I love anything with watercolor. If you've watched my videos before, you know that I love to watercolor. And so that's what we're going to work on today. They're always different. Like this one is a little crazy. It's got a lot more greens in it. You can put some blues in it. Really fun. The colors I'm working with are Night of Navy, Granny Smith Apple. No, wait, what is it? It's a new green. Granny Apple Green, and I just adore it. And the Night of Navy and Balmy Blue, which is also a new color. And I just think that this Balmy Blue is really a nice blue. I love blues and greens. And there is a paper collection that goes with this Sea of Textures, and it's got a lot of textures backgrounds, but I wanted to create my own, and so then I could use any colors I want because I just keep using this green. I don't know why, but I love it. Love the new green. Okay, so let's get going on our card. The card base is shimmery white cardstock. I like shimmery white because it holds up to watercolor really nice but doesn't have a lot of texture, and it has a little shimmer to it, so I think it's a really fun paper cardstock, and I use it quite often. This is one of the stamps. It's a fun background, little seagrass. And the stamp once full strength and then move it down a little bit at a lighter strength, and then I get a few different variations in color, and you can kind of keep going with that idea. And dark, maybe move a light one over here. There. So I've got a background of seagrass, and that is the background base of my card. And then I've got another little piece of shimmery white cardstock, and this is cut at 2 3/4 by 3 3/4, and that's what we're going to use for our smooshing technique. We're going to start with a piece of some kind of plastic that you can put some ink on, and you can either use a drop of ink, you can just put your ink pad directly onto it. I like to give myself a small little palette by putting a little tiny block in the ink and then just putting it on the plastic. That's just how I do it. I don't like to put the whole piece of plastic on there. I don't know why. It's too much. I don't have as much control, and I want it to be in the middle, I guess. So then you're going to add a little bit of water. And then with another little transparency piece, little piece of window sheet, acetate, whatever, you're going to pick up some of that ink and you're going to put it down and move it around and get these interesting little splotches. And the nice thing is it's just very organic. You're not going to have perfect control. You have a little bit of control because you can move some over here and move some over there. But you just get these really interesting patterns in the background. Let me get rid of some of that. If you feel like you have too much sitting on the paper, you can grab a napkin or a piece of tissue and blot it up. So that's the Night of Navy layer. And I'm just going to repeat it with another color. So I wipe off this. I'm going to add that Granny Apple Green. Pick up some ink, and then we're going to just kind of put it down, do some dragging if we wanted to. Put a little down here. And I might pick up some excess. I think that's enough green. I'm going to add a little bit of balmy blue, and I think that'll be enough color. And I've already made some octopuses, so I want to see if that's enough background. I think I need a little more up higher. Okay, there, I'm satisfied with that. So now we're going to just go ahead and put the card together. Now the watercolor smooshing is very random, and you kind of have to live with that. I mean, I suppose you could go and try to be more precise, but I try really hard to not be precise. Make yourself a little crazy. So I'm going to mount my piece of shimmery white smooshed paper onto some Night of Navy. I wish you could see it in person. The shimmery white cardstock really does shimmer, and it looks really pretty with the blues. So then my octopus is going to go right there, and I'm going to use some little mini dimensionals for that. I love the mini dimensionals because you can get them in all these little tentacles. I'm using a couple of glue dots for my seagrass and the coral. All right, so I've got that net, and I want to put it kind of low on this corner. So I'm adding just a bunch of adhesive, and I'm going to place it where I want it here and lay it down. But I want to pop this up, so I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back of this. There we go. All right, and then I needed to add a sentiment. I love using this little, what is this called? Let me think. Classic Label. I can't believe I forgot that. Classic Label punch. I really like it because it's narrow and small, and I can cut out these little strips. I always have these little tiny strips left in my paper packs from making borders and things. So you've got a great use for them with words and sentiments. So I hang on to these little strips. Okay, that's a little fun with the arrow on one side, but I want it flat. There. And I'm going to add that there. I wanted to have a little bit more of that. This is another new color called Grapefruit Grove, and I wanted to put a little bit of that at the top since I had some at the bottom. Balances that out. And then I needed a little something there because the swap I'm in requires us to add an embellishment or ribbon of some kind. And so I'm going to add this linen thread that kind of ties in some of this crumb cake color and maybe even some of that netting feel to it. So I'm adding a little bit of linen thread. I'm going to tie a bow. There. The linen thread is so skinny, I like to double up my bows. I'm going to add that right by the netting and the coral. If you're going to do multiples of a card, it's nice to kind of have an assembly line going. I think doing 2 or 4 is probably as many as I want on the table at once. I have 2 more to do, so I'm going to do them together. And I'm going to start with the navy. So I got my little piece of navy, a little bit of navy ink and some water on this little plastic sheet. I'm going to pick up some with a second plastic sheet, and I'm going to place and move around. Kind of get little bits. I'm going to pick up some more. I'm going to place it down and move it around. You want that kind of organic edge to show. Maybe a little bit more navy. And I have to say, sometimes when I'm looking at them first, I think I don't like them. And I think, no, I don't like it. But then, as I'm working, as I put the card together, I tend to say, oh, you know, now it looks really good once you've put the octopus on top and you've got all your elements together. So right now it looks kind of weird. And sometimes you have to just embrace the random. So I'm going to go with some Granny Apple Green. You know, I should have waited till this is dry. You can either use a heat tool or just pick up some excess ink with your tissue or napkin. I had to make 12 of these, so I have a kind of a mess going on. Like a lot of napkins and tissues and baby wipes. So I'm just going to add some of this green. It's also easier to work in a larger space with a larger piece, I think, to do the smooshing technique. Using little pieces of cardstock tends to be harder because you have to kind of hold the imaging sheet or your transfer sheet kind of rounded and high because you don't want it to get all over the edge, and you don't have as much room to drag. So it's a little easier when you're using a bigger piece. It makes a fun background though, and play around with it and see what you think. Last is that balmy blue. Okay, I'm going to go with these. Sometimes I feel like I said, they look a little crazy, but once you've got the whole card together, it really does look fun and interesting. So I'm going to mount them and put them together, and then I'm going to show you all the different cards that I made and how cute they look all put together. And look how each one turns out a little differently, but all very fun. I hope you'll give it a try. I hope you won't be too hard on yourself. It's kind of hard to get used to, and it kind of looks messy, but it is awfully fun. And this one is really messy, but it's, I think it looks like the octopus inked. It's really cute. And then we've got this guy. So they're just all a little bit different and all unique and one of a kind. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you'll watch some more videos, and check out my Facebook page too and chat with me there. I love to have people on my Facebook page, and I hope that people will chat. It's Beth's Paper Cuts, just like my blog and my YouTube channel. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that you'll come back again. Bye.